All right, so yes, Todd Howard is at it again, providing some new updates about all things Starfield. Today, we've got some new comments about future updates and, yes, how Starfield was built with big expansions and updates in mind. Now, we're also going to be talking about how crucial the modding community is to the future of this game. Plus, Bethesda calls out over-encumbered hoarders, which ignited an entire discussion around inventory management. And Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty has stirred up some interesting discussions around one of Starfield's biggest features. Will Bethesda take notes here and implement this in the future, or keep trekking on the same path? And after 500 hours of playtime, you've got to hear this about Starfield. It's not what you think. Trust me, it's definitely worth a listen. And what can Bethesda realistically improve through DLC? Well, we've definitely got to talk about that one as well. And by the way, if you're new, welcome aboard. Smack that subscribe button. Turn on that bell notification icon so you never miss another update. But yeah, let's get into the first headline right here, which says this: more than Skyrim or Fallout, Todd Howard says Starfield was intentionally made to be played for a long time, and Bethesda's looking 5 years ahead. So yeah, let's dive into what was said here. So here we go. It says, even a game like Skyrim, which if you look at it at launch was still a really, really big game. If you look at it today with add-ons and mods, it's a much bigger game. It's still a game that's played 12 years later in large numbers for us. I think if you look at your audience, they get used to a game and they usually want to +1 it. They want to add X, Y, and Z, and the developers, we usually do as well. This comes from Todd Howard, by the way. Now, Howard reiterates what Bethesda's teased in previous Starfield updates. The studio is actively looking to polish and add features in response to players' feedbacks, but even compared to Skyrim's legendary long tail, Howard says Bethesda is in it for the long haul with Starfield, both with updates and mod support. This is great to hear. They're not going to just drop the game. Of course, we have been seeing, I would say, some hate for Starfield recently, just because of games that are kind of crowded around its release. That it, of course, includes Baldur's Gate 3 and Cyberpunk 2077. I myself am, guess what, enjoying the hell out of all 3 games. But yeah, to each their own. Now, next up, we have this one right here. This is a game, and it's intentionally made to be played for a long time. One of the things we've learned from our previous games, from Skyrim and from Fallout, is that people want to play them for a very long time. So Starfield, I would say, was the most intentional going into it, that this is a game people are going to play for a long time. How do we build it such that it is allowing that in a way that feels natural? And if people have played the game and finished the main quest, you can see that. I think beyond the main quest, for me, what's most fascinating about Starfield is that I want to do a lot of the faction quests and everything outside of the main quest. But yeah, let me know if you guys are more interested in things like New Game Plus, the main quest line, that sort of thing, or if you prefer them like adding more factions to the game, more faction quest lines. That's the sort of thing that I'm interested in now. It says, but it's also one where, okay, what does Starfield look like in 3 months? What does it look like in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years? We've learned that that's going to happen, so let's be ready for it, make the most of it, and embrace it. That's both what we do here and with our modding community. We've learned so much there, giving ourselves a really, really good base of a game to build upon for everybody. I love that they're so in tune to the modding scene as well. We are going to be getting that creation kit 2.0. We're seeing amazing stuff now. Wait until that creation kit comes out. It's going to be absolutely insane. But yeah, it looks like they're working directly with the modding community as well. So that's good news going forward for the future. Then we have this question right here, and I've got to hand it all to you. Check it out right here. It says, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely is it that you would buy a DLC for this game? So yeah, if there's a full-blown expansion based on your experience so far, would you actually lay down the money for an expansion, for DLC, for Starfield? Sound off. Also, we have this headline right here as well. Todd Howard calls out encumbered Starfield hoarders. No, you don't need the trays and the pencils. And this, boy, really stirred up quite the conversation here. So let's get into it. It says, it's about prioritizing player freedom in terms of where you can go, what you can do. Howard says, it seems like people hit this every time they play one of our new games, picking up all the stuff. They immediately get encumbered. No, you don't need the trays and the pencils, but we like that you can pick them up. Yeah, it definitely like makes me wonder though. I personally think this, and let me know if you agree. So when you activate your scanner in Starfield and it highlights all of the outlines in blue of all the items that you can pick up, I personally think you should be able to really prioritize and select from the scanner what highlights in blue. So the most important necessary items. Oh, that grenade's going to go all sorts of wrong there. But yeah, those sorts of items I think need to be priority on your scanner. Perhaps like even in red, your scanner knows, oh, hey, this is like an extremely critical thing for you going forward. It's going to actually increase your skills. It's like a book that you can actually read. And you can see that clearly on your scanner or upgrade your scanner to actually have that as a possibility. I think that would be very, very cool. And in my opinion, necessary because there is so much clutter. I love that they actually hired one of the modders from previous games to work on the clutter for this game. But to have it all highlightable by the scanner is just like, why? There's so much here, I just need to know the important bits. Now, mentioning that, it goes on to say this right here. With that comment, Todd has ignited open warfare in the game's Radar Plus chat. Everything I've been weighed down by has a function. There's just too much of it, and the game's bad at signposting that's actually helpful. Guy's writer, Joel, argues, I'm scraping casing off the walls because I'm worried I'll need it later. What I needed was somebody to just say, I wouldn't worry about it, mate. Yeah, I feel like there's also not enough signaling in the inventory telling you, hey, this is clearly junk. Don't worry about it. I love when games have like little icons or messaging that says, hey, you can go to any vendor and just sell this freely. It's junk. Don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. Just sell it. That sort of thing I think would be really helpful to Starfield, and I think they should add that in future updates. And yeah, I imagine modders will or already have done the same thing. Now, next up, we have this one right here. Love Starfield, but replaying Cyberpunk 2077 is eye-opening. Oh boy, here we go. This discussion again. But yeah, has some good points here. 6,100 upvotes. So a lot of people agree with this one for sure. It says, after spending a couple hundred hours on Starfield, I can honestly say that I love this game despite the fact that it falls short in some areas. Even as I played it, I could recognize the Bethesda game template underneath it all, but I accepted those old methodologies because I love the game for what it is. Going back to playing Cyberpunk 2077 now makes me realize how antiquated some of the technology is with Starfield. Take dialogue scenes, for example. In Starfield, you could see how the NPCs change from their current animation into this face-on, eyes-locked mode, where you might as well be speaking to a mannequin. In Cyberpunk, however, NPCs notice you, approaching you, and seamlessly engaging in dialogue, even as they continue to perform other tasks like eating, smoking, etc. That is one thing I did want to comment on. With Cyberpunk NPCs, what I'm so impressed by is their variation in their movement. So when you are actually talking from NPC to NPC, they're doing a wide variety of things when they are talking to you. I remember talking to one NPC. This was, of course, for story stuff, and they ended up crawling over the bar so seamlessly and just walking out. And it's those simple little things that really impresses me. And also, I particularly love when games have it when you interact with NPCs. They give you the option to sit down next to them, to really sit down with them. It really cements you in the scene. Now, furthermore, we have this right here. It says, I'm still trying to put a finger on what makes Cyberpunk so much more immersive. I think it's a combination of several things put together. A huge part is that all the events in the game, whether it's gameplay or cutscenes, are strictly from the player's point of view. And even in cutscenes, you can often still look around. As much as I enjoyed my time in Starfield, I'm finding that Cyberpunk has a lot more to offer, even in the areas where the two games overlap. I know the theme and scope are not comparable, but there's a pretty big gap in depth and quality, among other things. What feature from Cyberpunk would you wish to be integrated in Starfield? Actually, that's a great question. Sound off, everyone. But yeah, there's a great article that kind of attaches very nicely to what we just read there. Check it out here. It goes on to say the following. Cyberpunk 2077 figured out the secret ingredient to making talking fun, and I wish Starfield had copied it. So what is this secret ingredient they're referring to? So it goes on to say this right here. Dialogue prison, as they word it. Fascinating. So it says, CD Projekt's choice to let players roam during dialogue is a small detail, but I think it's actually the secret sauce that makes talking in Cyberpunk engaging and why talking in Starfield is so stealth by comparison. Having the freedom to pace around a room, read nearby text logs, loot, or selectively make eye contact with characters creates an extra layer of role-playing beyond dialogue choices themselves. Yeah, I really do wish they would open it up to have this option in Starfield. There is a mod which doesn't zoom it in exactly, but it doesn't let you roam around freely. One thing that I do also appreciate Cyberpunk, which I think does a little bit better here, is the fact that you can see two characters engaging with each other close by, and that sometimes is not the case in Starfield. Now, sometimes it does happen where you do see them all meeting around the table, but I love to be able to see that, like at all times, having that option to be able to see the entire conversation unfold who I'm looking at. It's just a nice freedom to have, and I think going forward, Bethesda should take notes here, especially when developing Elder Scrolls 6. Now, next up, we have this one right here. Most scenes let me keep my gun drawn at all times, a feature that I use constantly when meeting Night City's many weirdos for the first time. Unlike so many big budget games that insist you see every detail of its expensive storytelling, Cyberpunk doesn't mind if I get distracted reading the labels of household products while Idris is explaining some important spy stuff. You can disengage from conversation just by walking away or often choose to say nothing. It's cool to have agency not only in the dialogue, but in the pacing and even the cinematography of the scene. So yeah, now it says CD Projekt's freedom comes with its own hangups too. Positional dialogue isn't always consistent, resulting in some choices that you can only make while standing close and looking at other characters, and others that you can be anywhere for. Now, these discrepancies create awkward pauses where I'm not sure why a conversation isn't progressing until I fiddle with my positioning and finally see the dialogue option. Annoying. So yeah, it does have its own caveats as well, but overall, I think both systems do work very nicely. It's just that I think that in Starfield, it's interesting discussion that perhaps with the expansion, they could open up some more freedoms in roaming around while dialogue is actually going on. Now, this one you have got to hear. Check it out. It says, after playing this game for 500 hours, I feel like I can safely say that there really isn't anything all that good about this game. Hold up. Stick with me. It's not what you think at all. This one comes from Tom Likes Guitar. It says, I don't really know how to explain it, but somewhere around the 300 hour mark, I really lost interest and realized there wasn't much else to the game. And I feel like ever since then, I was just playing to see if the game had anything else to offer. Things they could have added to make me enjoy the game more. More content on every planet, but also less planets. But also make the galaxy far bigger. Also make sure that it can fly between planets, but make it not boring, but also realistic. Also make it so I can fly my ship with mechanics as good as games that are solely about flying my ship. Make it so every conversation has infinite number of ways to respond and every line of dialogue is well written and perfectly voiced by Oscar winners. The game desperately needs mechs and also Dark Souls combat. Also, where are all the dragons? I just expect so much better from Bethesda. If you don't already know, he's being very sarcastic here, of course, but I thought it was a great point, how I see a lot of people saying, this game is so boring, I just can't play any more of it. Yet they're registering around 150 hours in the game. Don't get me wrong, you can critique the game after 150 hours, but come on, I feel like the game is a success if it's pulling you in for that amount of time. I mean, yeah, that's saying a lot. Now, also, we have this one right here as well. You guys are skipping content and your whiny posts are annoying. 2,500 upvotes, and it says, I'm on this sub a lot and sort by new, and let me tell you all something, many of you are skipping major parts of the game and then complaining about lack of content or poor performance when you leave your PC, Xbox on all day. Yeah, now the performance issue, I do feel like I am going to stop there. I do feel like that is legit. There are people that are struggling with the performance. I will say this, that they need to continue with the updates in that regard for Starfield for sure. It's running great on my PC, but some people might be struggling. And I feel like it could be running even better on my PC as well. Now it says every 30 minutes, there's a new post about someone bragging about how many hours they have on the game, only to say it's boring or complain that the game is unfinished. While the game does have its faults and feels unfinished in many ways, the game as it stands today is a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. You say that as if it's a bad thing. So here's my overview of where I stand, coming from someone who enjoys every aspect of the game, and I'm looking forward to Bethesda Game Studios fixing all the issues that most of us agree need fixing. Been playing since the official release on Xbox, currently at 90 hours, level 31. I have not done a single quest line or major quest except Horizon, and I'm only about halfway through it. I haven't touched a single temple. I only know they exist because some of y'all insist on putting spoilers in your title. Now, the majority of my time is spent surveying planets or completing missions or activities. I have not been to a single level 30 system, and I haven't been all the systems below level 30, so still a lot to explore. I spend a lot of time doing outposts and shipbuilding. Sometimes I'll spend an hour on a ship and say, screw it, just delete it and do something else. I'm not creative in the slightest, so my ships usually suck. I'm here to argue with you guys, or we can complain together about the crap that doesn't work. Use this to compare where you stand in your playthrough. Some of you all are rushing through the game and don't even realize how much you're skipping. You're welcome to play how you want, but don't skip half the game, then complain it's short or incomplete. Yes, stuff feels unfinished, but it's plenty of content for now. Yeah, this is definitely an interesting discussion for sure. I have seen some of the Steam reviews, recent negative downvotes of the game. It's interesting to see how much time is actually being registered by these people that are kind of like giving up the game. We're talking about like only 20 or so hours. And then completely judging the game. Now, again, like he said in the post here, there's stuff that definitely needs to be improved. But what's here right now, for me personally, is just great. And I wanted to highlight some of that greatness, as you can see right here. Check it out. It says, I figured I can increase the time speed, and this happened. Thank you, Bethesda. This is beautiful. It shows how the planet is orbiting, the planet that you are on here, as you can see, and how the stars are moving across the sky. Absolutely stunning. This one was posted by Dr. Bishop 1903, I believe. So yeah, I just think that there's some beauty in this game that's kind of ignored. And yeah, you could tell that there was a lot of love and passion put into Starfield, no doubt. To act like there wasn't is just something else. Now, we need to talk about what Bethesda can realistically do with the game going forward in terms of DLC to improve it. Check it out. It says, the number one thing Bethesda can realistically improve through DLC is the procedurally placed points of interest. One comes from, I don't know how to say this name, Explorate. And they say the exploration complaints have been stressed to death already, but I'm posting this because Bethesda keeps asking for feedback, so here is mine. There are reports of around 30 individual point of interest existing in the game's pool of randomly placed locations. In my opinion, this is a ridiculously low number for a game this size, but really almost any realistic number in this case can become a problem when you're at the mercy of RNG. What I am proposing is bumping that number to at least 80 to 100 locations, plus a system that ensures there's no chance for the player to keep discovering the same locations back to back. Adding to this, I would suggest more unmarked locations and random encounters to spruce things up a bit in between the marked points of interest. Lastly, a vehicle or mount is sorely needed as well. Having to run at least 400 meters through largely barren terrain to find the same copy and pasted location is discouraging players from this part of the game, and it's especially aggravating for those who live under the impression this is the bulk of the game's content and decide to put it down altogether. Yeah, this needs to be addressed immediately, and it's such a shame it wasn't already in the game, but this exact post needs to be kind of like a mission statement for the point of interest for Bethesda on how they can improve it, because I thought this was like perfectly said. It covered basically all the complaints I have with exploration when it comes to like landing on a planet at an outpost and then trying to explore the exterior of that location. So yeah, I really do think that take right there is well written. All right, so mentioning well written takes, we have your top comments, so let's get into those right now, shall we? So my most recent video was this one right here. Todd Howard responds, things get very interesting. So let's scroll on down here. Ooh, it loaded. See what you guys had to say. It says, I'm all for being able to have companions fly our ships in battle. I mean, we all have had those dreams of being a starship captain and saying ensign or pilot engage. and being able to sit back and enjoy the ride or even take over ship and have either our character fly or a companion with a piloting skill fly for us. Yeah. You know, I mentioned in my previous video, if you missed it, how one of my companions was flying my previous ship and actually engaging in battle. It was kind of shocking to see. So I was like, damn, this is actually a developed feature, kind of. They have the AI down for this. So I'm kind of hopeful and speculating here that we do see companions that can fly beside us in the future. That's me speculating, though. Now we have Leo, who says this: the issue I see with AI is that difficulty seems to only change damage dealt and taken, and does not change AI difficulty at all. It would have been more fun if changing difficulty made the NPCs smarter. Yeah, I agree. I think they need to fine-tune the AI, I said previously. So yeah, that's something that I hope they tap into as well. Also, we have this one, Dorian RPG, who says, I think my biggest complaint with Starfield that wasn't mentioned in the vendors is the vendors, excuse me. They all have so little money that after I come back from a mission, I have to go to every vendor on 2 or 3 locations to offload all my loot. I tried to offset it by buying things I need, like ammo and building materials, but now I have thousands of rounds for weapons I keep on me in case of a situation, but don't use nearly as often. They really need to up the bank of vendors. I've never liked this mechanic. I've heard this so many times. Again, hopefully Bethesda is really scouring through forums, Reddit posts, comments like your guys on like YouTube videos, so they can actually fine-tune this stuff in the future. Crossing my fingers that they tap into this stuff with future updates. But yeah, there it is. Thank you all so much for all of the comments, and appreciate all the love and support on the videos as usual. Some of you expected me to drop my Starfield coverage because of Cyberpunk. That's not going to happen. I myself really enjoy this game. Yeah, it's got its problems, but it's also amazing. But thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more, and I will see you all next time. Take care.